Oh my goodness, that was awful, terrible, painful. But this hopefully won't be as bad. This is Village Vice. I'm Zach Blackerby. He is Brad Law, my out of camera focus, Zach Blackerby. But man, it seems like everything for the Auburn Tigers was out of focus. Brad, in Baton Rouge Saturday night, what a disaster coming out of a bye week.
Yeah, the focus issue is it is just par for the course for the last 24 hours or so, and so as he works on that, the thing we talked about all week long, I mean all week long, was that you couldn't get in a hole. You couldn't fall behind because you couldn't get into a scoring match. The only chance Auburn had
Right.
to win the game was to shorten it, was to give LSU about 7 offensive possessions, to hold the ball for 37, 38 minutes. And instead, it was touchdown, 3 and out, field goal, 3 and out, touchdown. And at that point late in the first quarter, unfortunately, and this is nothing against the players or coaches, but just the logistics of going, all right, you've got to outscore this LSU team now by 18 points over the final 45, 46 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. And so the game was determined in the first quarter. And that's tough to do. In today's age of college football, where we see Stanford come back from 29-0
Right.
at Colorado, and other big games like that where teams are capable of coming back from 17 and 20-point deficits. This Auburn team's just not built to do that.
No, it's not. And this was the game where they should have somewhat looked like they could do that, right? I mean, this is an LSU defense that's giving away yards for free to Grambling State, right? And Auburn had to fight for every single bit of it. I mean, I think that's the more concerning part with all of this. And I know there's a lot of panic about giving up 48 points and allowing 563 total yards. Sure, you can panic about whatever you want. I just don't think that's a long-term issue. I think this defense is fine. I don't think it's great, but I think it's fine. And this is going to be the best offense that they play for the rest of the year because, heck, it's probably the best offense in college football right now. And the averages they put up against Auburn, or the stats they put up against Auburn, is going to raise their average even more. So the offense, though, Brad, the inability to move the ball against the second to worst defense in the SEC. I mean, we talked about it all last week on this show. And it looked difficult. It looked tough. And I don't think it was anything LSU was doing at some points. I mean, the first 2 drives offensively were a joke. And I get there's some kind of psyche with playing a road game in the SEC, especially at night in Baton Rouge. I get all that. But coming out of a bye week, and you know that the strength of what you do is running the football.
Yeah.
And what do you not do? We were texting about it during the game, Brad, but they didn't run the ball until their 3rd series.
Yeah.
How does that make sense?
Well, and that's a little bit, and so I'm not going to defend the lack of productivity, but what we're still all learning and what we're still trying to kind of wrap our heads around, and this is myself included and everybody, is that in this offense, in the RPO offense, every play call has a run or pass option, and it's going to be dictated by what the defense is doing. And Will Herring talked to us. He was looking at it from the sideline, played years in the NFL at the linebacker spot. When LSU rolled its safeties down late, it automatically turned the play call into a pass. So the execution wasn't there. And as difficult as it is to swallow, again, myself included, Peyton was making the right read on whether to hand the ball off or pass the ball. Now, what you could argue, and I'm totally okay with this argument, is there have been offenses in the past that said our strength is running the ball. Even if you've got 7 guys in the box, we're going to make it work. Even if you play a run defense, our guys are just built this way. We're going to push it back and we're going to run the ball anyway. And I think there is something to be said for, you have to establish that. You have to stay on the field and try to, grind the clock down. And that has to be the game plan that you try to establish early. And Auburn didn't do that. It stuck with, all right, defense says ABC, we will do XYZ.
Right.
And as a result, I think they only ran once in like their first 9 or 10 plays in the game altogether. That's tough. That's
That's
tough.
probably true.
Don't
That's
when
probably
you
true. And
don't
then,
have yeah, yeah,
well, then once they're out of it, Brad, once they were done, it's when they started running the ball, and it's like, no, this is backwards.
yeah,
You needed to run the ball early, especially with how the offense looked disconnected. I mean, the running game would fix a lot of things, and that's
yeah,
just not. I mean, it just goes back to the whole game plan. I don't get it. I
yeah,
don't get the goal of what they're trying to do. And obviously, they're trying to score points and win games, but the way they're doing it just seems counterintuitive to what this roster is built for. As soon as we realized Peyton Thorne wasn't going to put up the type numbers that he did at Michigan State, they went to running the ball. It took them too long into the Texas A&M game to start running the ball. Georgia, they were all over it. They're like, okay, cool. This is what this team's going to do moving forward. And then Saturday night, it was similar to Texas A&M. It's like, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And then if you're going to pass the ball, you've got to find ways to get it in your best guy's hands. And I think that's Rivaldo Fairweather. I think most people think that's Rivaldo Fairweather. Brad didn't catch a pass till the second to last play in the third quarter. And it's just, once again, it doesn't make sense with what they're trying to do. They rolled out 3 new starting wide receivers their first 2 series of the game. Coy Moore, Rivaldo Fairweather was at wide receiver, and Caleb Burton was the third one.
Yep.
And all of those guys were able to impact the game early. Caleb Burton early in the game had 2 catches, 2 targets, and I think he got a first down on one of those. And it's like, okay, cool. Caleb Burton, that makes sense. We were all excited about him when he transferred from Ohio State to come down here. That makes sense. Cool, whatever. Rivaldo Fairweather, you feel like he's your best receiver. You put him at a wide receiver, and then you give more snaps to deal. And then over the course of the game, Frazier, who actually was incredible Saturday night. But and then you don't go to those guys ever again. It's just odd, Brad. Once again, like the inconsistencies of all of this. It's like they find something that worked, and then they would never go back to it again. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, and Rivaldo was targeted on one of those first couple of drives. They threw a ball downfield to him. It was a little bit under
4 targets, I believe.
Yeah. But that's semantics. When you have your best guys again, sometimes you just got to throw it to them and see if they can make a play. And we've seen that. Oh gosh, we see that happen plenty of times where a quarterback says, "Look, I'm going to throw to this guy, and barring double or triple coverage, I'm going to go to him on this play and just see if he can make a play on the ball." I know that there was a lot of emphasis on the passing game. I saw a fraction of how hard the coaching staff worked on the offensive tweaks in the game plan and trying to improve the passing game. And boy, for whatever reason, it just didn't work. And it didn't work from the jump last night.
It didn't. So StatCast has Rivaldo at 4 targets. PFF has Rivaldo at 3 targets. But another guy, and we've talked about this before, like Shane Hooks. And it seems like they go to Shane Hooks in third down situations, which is obviously important, right? And they threw to him 3 times, according to PFF. No catches. No catches for Shane Hooks. And that's something that we've talked about before, like during our stat time segments, is Shane Hooks is like, getting thrown to, but he's not catching anything. And at some point, you got to say, this isn't going to work. I mean, it's very clear that the timing between Peyton and Shane, they are not on the same page. I mean, it doesn't take an expert to see that, but that's who they go to in third down situations, right? And we've talked about this. This was how Auburn was going to win the game, is long drives converting on third down. And they were 3 of 12 on third down against the second worst defense in the league when allowing opponents yards per drive. I mean, it's just, it's so hard to really see anything good about this.
Yeah. And with Hooks, like the first one was a 50-50 ball, and he didn't come down with it. I don't know about the other 2. I know one of the 2, whether he had the wrong route or Peyton just made a bad throw. that play never had a chance of
Well,
being
the
completed
ball went
once
to
it
the
left
sticks.
Peyton's hand.
Yeah, I think it was a
Yeah,
3rd and 6, 3rd and medium, and
yeah.
Peyton threw the ball at the first down marker, and Hooks was 5 yards past it. And then on the
Mhm.
sideline, Freeze went to Hooks, not
Yeah.
to Thorne. So that kind of tells me who he was probably upset with. I don't know that, but I'm just kind of, just watching the
Yeah.
broadcast.
Camden Brown had a couple of catches back to back. That's good. He had one catch against Georgia, now a couple of catches against LSU. It's good to see him healthy, and maybe this is the start of kind of a slow build up for Camden as he goes through the second half of the schedule. It was good to see Brandon Frazier do what he did. I'll tell you the big sticking point, and it was something else we talked about all week long, was penalties and procedural issues on the road absolutely kill you, especially on first down. Because and this was the case, one of Auburn's drives last night early in the game, or it may have been the very first drive, which led to the first 3 and out. They get a penalty on the very first play. So on the second play, you've got a 6-yard pass, and now you're in 2nd and 9. Whereas without the penalty, you'd be in 2nd and 4.
Sure.
It's completely different. It's a night and day difference between 2nd and 4 and 2nd and 9. They got the drive starter that they needed, the drive starter that we talked about throughout
Yep.
the week, but the penalty wipes that out. You have a penalty on the first play of your first series of the first half and a penalty on the first play of the first series in the second half. And I get that as I'm complaining about it, it is not possible to be more upset about it than the players and coaches are. I understand that. But it is a fact. Those things just they deflate you totally, and you have to find some way to answer that deflation and get inflated again, because it's not going to get any easier when you put yourself in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it will get easier, like as far as the season goes. We'll talk about that in a second. But I also want to get your thoughts on how they're handling quarterbacks, Brad. So that's coming up. But I got to tell you about our friends at mybookie.ag. They are the best place to wager on all of your sports action. Brad, you know this. I know this. 110% deposit bonus. That's more than
Yeah.
double. You put in $100, you get 110 back. Are you kidding me? If you want
Look,
to feel good about yourself after last night, go to MyBookie.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
There's generous and then there's questionable business decisions. And
That's right.
So that's kind of what it is. Yeah, you deposit $100 with mybookie.ag for your first bet, and they will put in an additional $110. So you have $210 to work with right from the start.
It's insane. So be sure to check out our friends at mybookie.ag. All you have to do is get that deposit bonus is use promo code next round when you make that first deposit. Brad, the quarterback rotation is fascinating. As soon as I think they're getting close to figuring out the balance, there's any sort of momentum, they would switch quarterbacks Saturday night. And I get the frustration of the Auburn fan base and watching this. It feels very similar to how the rotation was used early last season under the previous administration between TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford.
Yep. Looking for answers. You're looking for consistency. And it's kind of a catch-22 because the argument is, how can you find consistency? How can you have consistency if guys are shuffling out consistently? If the only thing consistent is change, then you can't get any consistency with one of the two. And that's hard. And because their skill sets are so very different. Yep, Peyton has the most explosive running play of the season with his legs. He can make play. He made a couple of first down runs last night, a couple of runs that could have been first downs, with an extra move here, direction here or there too. But the quarterback in this offense has to make plays in the passing game. That's not happening. I don't know what the answer is to that. And I don't think the coaches know it's clear, and this is not criticism, it's just clear the coaches don't know what the answer is either, or else they would have done it, or else they would have implemented it during the open date.
Yeah.
And then certainly in one of these games where you're struggling to find consistency. Is the answer to give Robbie a full half and make no substitution whatsoever? We've seen Peyton have a game like that where he had the whole first half and Robbie didn't play at all. Is the answer to give Peyton an entire game and say, regardless of what happens, we're not shuffling in another quarterback? I don't know, but there hasn't been consistency to this point.
I think you've got to pick one at this point. I think you've got to pick one. And it's just the original plan seemed like it was Peyton. And then in certain situations, they put Robbie in. And now it's okay, Robbie, you need to run your offense for a few plays. Peyton, you go back to running, our original offense. And I don't think other players on the field are benefiting from it either. Like, I don't think either quarterback is. The offense as a whole isn't, and other players on the field aren't. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Once again, it goes back to like the whole offensive game plan. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And you scored 18 points against a team that's given up points for free like all season long. Like, it's not a good look, Brad. I don't care that it was away from Jordan-Hare Stadium. Like, you've got to score more points than that and at least look better, like pass the eye test for a game. And it's just we haven't really done that yet, except for maybe Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, a home game.
Sure.
And again, a play where Peyton very early in the ball game made a play with his legs. He had the 60-plus yard run, and that opened up a few more things inside, opened up a few more things outside as well. You had the early play offensively. Didn't have that in this. Haven't had that in any of the 3 road games yet this year. And you've been, behind the 8 ball and needed kind of a miraculous stretch from the passing game to win the game at Cal very early in the season. But again, I don't know what the answer. I'm so curious to hear Hugh Freeze's press conference Monday, because as we know, there won't be any coach speak. And I think you're going to hear a lot of the same. Like they're really struggling to come up with an answer for the quarterback spot. I think what you see is a reflection of the fact that they're not confident in what the answer is, or else they would have done it, or else you would have seen a different approach. I think this isn't working. Let's try this instead. That's the best that they have at this point.
Yeah.
That doesn't give you a lot of confidence with 2 road games left, even if one of them is Vanderbilt. Scoring under 20 points in all 3 road games now, 3 games, 60% of your road season. That's not an anomaly. That's not a one-off. Unfortunately, now you have a pattern. You have an identity on the road, and it's not a good identity offensively.
No, it's not. And I think this is a situation now where the rest of the schedule does get easier, right? Going into the year, I predicted Auburn to lose 4 in a row. So the 3 that they've lost already, and then 1 more, sadly, against Ole Miss. But after that, it gets significantly easier, right? And I think the pressure will definitely be off too. I know that's not really what people want to hear right now, but if your proper expectations were 7-5, that's certainly still on the table. If it was 8-4, it's still there, but the path becomes very, very difficult at that point. But your tough road games are behind you. I don't consider Arkansas a tough road game. I just don't. But this is, once again, like going into the season, Brad, very few people expected you to win in LSU. Did it look worse than you thought it would? Sure, probably. But still, like, the end of the season, is there a difference between if Auburn lost 18-48 versus 18-30? I don't think so. Some people may think so. Right. I hear sirens. Are they coming to get you, Brad? And then the next part of all of this is, like, nobody expects you to beat Georgia, and then A&M was a toss-up, but a lot of people didn't expect you to win that either. So still, Auburn's where most people thought they would be going into it. You just looked worse than you thought you would against Texas A&M and LSU, and you looked better than a lot of people would thought against Georgia. So keep proper expectations here. Like, I get the frustration, and look, nothing about the Auburn team Saturday night really passed the eye test.
Yeah.
But still, like, I don't think the season is over because Auburn got thumped by the best offense in college football.
No, it's very similar to how we felt coming out of Texas A&M. We get really used to letting our emotions buoy with the last game. So coming out of Texas A&M, people who thought Auburn was going to go 8-4 all of a sudden go, well, my goodness, we may only go 5-7 now because of how we looked the last time we saw the team on the field. And then you play the way you played against Georgia, and you go, well, I tell you what, 8-4 now is a lot more realistic. And that the performance against Georgia built people's confidence coming in here to Baton Rouge. I can't wait to leave the city, by the way. And so 1 week, for a week, people are going to potentially go back on their season picks and go, well, now it's more like 6-6, or they will probably go back by a game on their preseason projection.
Sure.
And then how Auburn does against Ole Miss will change the perception going into the next week. That's just how we tend to do it when we get into fan mode. And I mean, it happens a lot of places. Unfortunately, there's just been such huge swings from 1 week to the next. So before we talk about what is next, I got to talk about Manscaped, Zach.
Ooh.
Manscaped came in so handy on this trip to Baton Rouge. I brought the Handyman with me. That's the face shaver, the compact face shaver. It's in the bathroom right now. I wish I should have brought it over and showed it to everybody, but worked on my neck. Actually got the back of my neck too. And so I was nice and fresh and clean going into that stadium Saturday. And right now, if you go to manscaped.com and use the code VICE, again, the promo code is VICE. Very important that you use the promo code VICE at manscaped.com. You're going to get 20% off your order, and you're going to get free shipping. Now, how are you going to beat that? If you've not tried it yet, they are the best in men's grooming products, whether it's your beard or not your beard. Manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping right now with the promo code VICE, VICE.
Very, very important. Thank you to Manscaped. Y'all are the best. As far as what's next, like, is this Ole Miss game, how winnable is it in your mind?
Well, as we'll find out on Thursday's show, I never pick Auburn to lose, and it doesn't matter what's happened in the latest game.
You'll eventually be right again.
Yeah, eventually, at some point, that's going to come back around. A broken clock is right 2 times a day. It's a winnable game because it's at home, and because I think you can. I don't think the Ole Miss offense is as good as LSU's offense. I think the LSU defense, the Ole Miss defense may be a little better, but again, playing at home, and there's a greater comfort at home. Night game, Jordan-Hare, that's worth 7 to 10 points. It's winnable, but you got to get back into the mode of playing with confidence and consistency offensively and not shooting yourself in the foot. LSU doesn't score 48 points in the game if Auburn stays on the field.
Yeah.
And they just weren't able to do that offensively. So LSU got to win time of possession. They picked up 3-4 extra possessions than what you wanted them to have. And that's how they get to 48 points in the game. You can't allow Ole Miss to do that. You can't allow anybody else to do that.
So Ole Miss didn't play this weekend.
Yeah.
They're coming in Auburn off of a bye week.
Hopefully their bye week is as fruitful as Auburn's was.
So over the last 10 seasons, this is according to, what website is this? olehottytoddy.com. So
that sounds reputable.
If they're talking about Ole Miss, like whatever. Yeah. So they say over the last 10 seasons, the Rebels have had 12 games coming off of a bye week. And they've lost 9 of them.
Okay.
And then 6 of them have been on the road, which is what this case will be, and they're 0-6 on road games after a bye week. 3 of those have come against Alabama, so maybe that's a little bit of an asterisk, but thought that was interesting.
And some of those were with Hugh Freeze at the helm. I thought his record after bye weeks was too good at Ole Miss for that to be true, but maybe the wins are in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hugh Freeze's record after bye week was better at Liberty than it was at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, so it's not like, oh, okay, Ole Miss has got some situation after a bye week. They're gonna be tougher to beat. I mean, statistically, that's not true. So we'll see how that comes into play.
Another week to try to get guys who have been injured back in there too. I mean, do we see Damari Alston next week? How close are some of the other guys to being back? Is Jalen Simpson, who played but wasn't quite 100%, is he closer to 100% against Ole Miss? You know, for these back-to-back home games, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, huge swing games now for how this season will look at the end. And so, yeah, if those guys are closer to 100% after another week to heal and get better, then that's good.
Yep. Yep. All right, folks. So moving forward, the plan is just to post normal shows like this one on Sundays instead of the live show that may come back during basketball season or baseball. We'll certainly see, but this seemed more sustainable for our schedules this time. So let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, both on the game and also what you would want our Sunday content schedule to look like. But Brad, in the meantime, I think that about does it for today's show.
We do. And to echo your point, we do respond to the audience, and this is still a little bit of a work in progress. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to tinker and find the right formula. We appreciate you watching. Thank you for watching, for liking, subscribing, for commenting, and being there with us. In the meantime, we tell you, everyone has vices. Zach, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.